But talk to us through the what the vCISO does.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point. Again, using your quote unquote org DNA and what your customer base looks like is going to drive a lot of these services. And whether you're heavy in one piece, lighter in the other, or you're not even doing it, certain things based on what your customers need. So listen to your customers, of course, right? But yeah, risk management. So at the end of the day, a vCISO is going to look at the technology landscape of the organization, their business goals, the business risks, and say, where does technology pose a risk to the business? And then what decisions do we want to make around that? So I think this is a really important thing to understand. Is I think as MSPs, sometimes we always think about we got to mitigate risk. That should be one of the last things we think about in a lot of ways. The four things you can do are you can accept the risk, you can transfer the risk, you can mitigate the risk, or I'm blanking on the third one. Anyways, point being is that we want to see if we can transfer that risk, right? We want to see if we can can we accept the risk and just to move faster in the business. And we say, okay, the cost of a control is not commensurate with actually the risk that it poses. So again, we want to create all these perfect outcomes in the technology, but I think as a vCISO, you have to understand risk and how does it apply to the business. So that's number one. And obviously there's regulatory compliance, right? We've got to make sure that we're keeping the business compliant because that is a risk to the business if we were out of compliance. The strategic security planning, working with the organization to game plan using all those things we just talked about and say, what can we afford to do? What makes the most sense for us to do? Building consensus with the organization to get a plan in place and start executing on that plan. And then preparing the organization from a personnel perspective. And then, of course, an incident response planning. I think that's one of the biggest things that a vCISO program can be instrumental for in your clients is actually building them a resilient incident response plan that helps them respond to an incident and shrink that downtime. Because if you can say, hey, we're going to take downtime from a ransomware event, and which is 2 weeks or whatever it is, and maybe we just stop the attacker when they get into a little section of the network, right? Because of our incident response plan, we've just created massive cost savings for the organization and reduce that risk. So probably a little bit deeper than we wanted to go because I know we have to keep moving here. There's a lot to say there, but I think those are the things that a vCISO is going to do.